Greetings, 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 good people. I am back. I've missed you all. And, for those of you that don't know, a really dear friend, Simone Briziando, passed away on January 6th, January 5th. And the community has been reeling ever since. At some point, I will talk about all of that. Today is not that day. But I'm really thankful for all the support. I'm thankful for all of the ways my community, my village has shown up, not just for me, but for Simone and her family. If you want to support the movement that is sort of still supporting her passing, you can just go to my IG page at Cat's Corner Co, KATSKORNERCO, and you'll see a statement there with links to her memorial and to the GoFundMe page that will be up through the end of this month. Grief is a very strange beast, and there are a lot of ways that it shows up. But I felt it was time to come back, and I was really thankful that because I wasn't paying attention. Really thankful to Dana for holding me down in my absence, and also thankful to this sister who happened to be the person that we landed on when I took the break. So I'm excited to be back, and I'm really excited that she's the one that's bringing me back. She is the founder of the Family Museum. She is a curator. She is an artist. She is a mama. She's a bad mama. She's so amazing. Bad isn't good for those who don't understand the colloquial language. And she is an amazing arts programmer for the National Museum of Women in the Arts. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Miss Melani N. Douglas. Hello, darling.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. You look fantastic as usual.
We made it. We made it. Girl.
Listen, I told you I didn't trust this new business. I told you people, I said, listen, happy next year. Don't give me new. And here we are.
We made it.
We made it. We made it. How are you feeling today?
Open.
Okay.
Unbelievably open and proud and aware
okay.
of just the work that we have to do and who we get to do it with.
What are you most proud of in this moment?
Black women, Black men, Black children. One thing that is really touching my heart is there's so many things that have been set to divide Black and brown people. And in this moment, I'm seeing so many ways, like these past 2 years, that I'm just seeing this like global identity of liberation and building and economic advancement and so here's the thing. We know that in the spaces that when Black people who have been marginalized so much are at a point of being able to have access to the best or be able to create the best, be the best without resistance.
Right.
It just sets up the whole world to have a whole different experience,
It does. And it's interesting you say without resistance.
Right. Or interruption. Can I
interrupt
add that?
You can listen. If we can rewrite soul contracts, we can edit what you just said. It is absolutely fine.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I don't know if you know this, but I'm a Lovecraft junkie. Like, yeah, when Lovecraft came out, it was a stand for Ruby. I was so sad with how it all ended, but we knew it was going to end because she was dealing with that white woman. But when she talked about being interrupted, like I think every Black woman across the globe felt that particular piece. I think Black men felt it too, because that's oftentimes when you are part of a marginalized group or a group that there's an attempt to marginalize. Let me not say that we're all marginalized. There's a lot of people trying to keep us in a box, but a lot of us are fighting that. There is a lot of interruption. Do you feel in the wake of, and I don't know, I feel like the pandemic has opened up a whole plethora of things. Yeah. Do you feel the last few years or even just since last year that there has been less resistance for Blackness to kind of be and live and do its thing?
I think there's been more.
Okay.
But I think inside there that more, we have this wonderful ability to meet more with more.
Right.
And some of our most pivotal times have been when there has been the most resistance and the most need to activate, you know. Right. So I feel like we've leaned into, we keep leaning into over, running into over things that block. And then it's also a space where I feel that people are realizing they're connecting the dots, where they're like, I see how that affects you, and then ends up with me 5 to 10 years later, you know. Right. I see how gun violence in the 80s in urban neighborhoods ends up being Columbine. I see how crack ends up being meth. So people are seeing their own disenfranchisement. Right. But we're built for it.
We're definitely built for it, but I don't know that people are that. I feel like you might be giving folks a little bit more. I mean, I think we know it. Like we've always known that what we saw, like Columbine is it's a fantastic example. You know, I think we've always known that all Columbine was the gun violence that was happening in, you know, our neighborhoods is just bleeding over. I think I think a lot of us can look at the oxycodone, you know, the oxy pandemic and say, oh, well, that's just that, you know, that was crack in the 80s. Like, y'all didn't really care. You didn't see it as a disease then. You just, you kind of, you know, vilified Black people and made it some sort of inherent issue with them. But now that white folks are suffering and dying in these crazy numbers, now it's an issue that we need to take care of. So I think the hypocrisy is something that we see, but I don't know. Like even now, as we've gotten into this new era, we have a Black woman, Southeast Asian woman, who is the vice president of the United States of America. Keep in mind, we're so far behind most of the world when it comes to women in leadership positions. Right, late to the party. Party's over. We showing up like, hey, we got drinks. Yeah, and I wonder if they see it. You know, the proverbial way.
Let's look at the most recent one. How police responded to Black protesters. And then that gap between how they responded to white protesters in this most recent incident. And I think that the gap is shortening, you know, where you're like, it's happening to Black people. Not my business. Ooh, my front door. You know what I mean? I'm living on Capitol Hill, paying millions of dollars to be here. And y'all just letting the Proud Boys go crazy. Whole time, 3 weeks ago, y'all had a control over this. And so now it's like, oh, this is in my living room and it's eating at me. Now, I hope I don't sound like I'm giving too much credit, because I do think that just because you see things doesn't mean you always will act on them or you get hints of it. But the evidence is building in a way that makes people, I think that's making a small yet big enough group of people say, okay, we got to move a little bit faster on this. We got to do a little bit more. And what am I doing?
Right. I said to my dad, went to visit him, and we have this thing where, because I don't have regular TV, but he obsesses over MSNBC and CNN. So one of our rituals, we sit and we yell at the TV together.
Just my dad too.
Yeah, something we do. He's like, can you believe it? So, you know, his accent and my accent, and we're going back and forth, and my stepmom is on her phone watching her Moroccan, you know, TV shows. It's a fun time. But, you know, I said to him, you know, what's interesting is I remember as a college student at University of Maryland, Black Terps for Life, College Park, where we talked about the first time people saw Black folks being abused with hoses, with the fire hoses in Bull Connor and the protests, I think in Birmingham. That was the very first time people had to watch it on TV. That's when it became real to them. That this notion of, yes, as a Black person, this was your life and you were existing in this space generation after generation after generation. And people were like, listen, this is a problem. And you're calling King an agitator and you're feeling some kind of way because this Black man is trying to tell you what to do. And then you see this scene on TV where dogs are being set on Black people and fire hoses. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's a problem. I feel like that's what's happening now. I don't know why I feel that way, but it just feels like all of a sudden watching, because I watched some of the footage in real time of the Proud Boys carrying on like freaking, like it was insane. And the awe and shock that I was watching people go, I can't believe this happened. And I'm like, really? We've been warning you that this was going to happen. The FBI said the Ku Klux Klan was a domestic terrorist organization in the 50s. Yeah. Even further in the 20s. And you now are just seeing that. And I wonder for you as an artist, as a curator, as a mama, like, what does that do for you? Does it make you feel like, okay, well, maybe we're getting closer to something that's a little bit more resolute? Or are you like, come on, y'all?
It's kind of a yes and situation.
Right.
And it's also a reminder that for me not to allow anyone outside of my community to determine proximity to what's working. You know what I mean? Because the truth of the matter is that if I'm waiting, if we wait for people to get it, we're in trouble.
Right.
You know, but what it did for me is it said, you know, there's when we talk about racism, when we talk about anti-Black sentiment, we rarely talk about how it negatively impacts white people and then all people, right? So it's always kind of brought up as this thing like, you know, oh, this is horrible for Black people, that they're being having these confrontations with this system that we're in. It's horrible for them. But then when you say, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm a senator and I literally almost lost my life because anti-Blackness allowed for you to be implicitly biased and not see what was in your face.
Right.
And allow these things to come, or to see these telegrams to come through that say, okay, well, we know this is coming. I mean, there were directives throughout DC that said, try not to be downtown December 5th and 6th. And I'm like, so how do we get, as a citizen, I was home and I was aware.
Minding my business, right?
I was minding, I had tea and some soup. And so I minded my business. So my question was, it could only be your own bias and your own racism that would not put things in action. And people are saying, oh, now I see how this endangers me. I almost lost my life. This building almost went in flames. This building got broken. It's no longer, oh, look over there. It's horrible that they're treating the protesters this way. Right. It's, I'm hiding in the Senate basement, trying to find a way out before people get in.
Afraid for my life.
Afraid for my life.
And in that moment, realizing that my whiteness will not save me.
No, it came to eat you too.
Right. And so it's fascinating to watch. And one of the things that I know for, you know, in terms of your history, the making of the legacy of Melani is you founded your family museum.
Family Arts Museum.
Family Arts Museum, I apologize. Yeah, you founded the Family Arts Museum in direct response to people trying to marginalize you. You know, that you people won't give me space to be me, so I need to create space. Can you talk a little bit about the Family Arts Museum, but also just about Black art being, I tend to feel like when I look at a lot of my favorite artists across time, they're considered artists because they're operating in this creative space, but I see them as basically like, you know, prophets or revolutionaries, where they're really just responding to being put in the corner and responding to things that are really affecting them on a daily basis. So if you could share a little bit about how you founded the Family Arts Museum, and then talk about your own practice in terms of how your art is a reflection of that. That's one of the things I love about you. I'd love for people to know a little bit more about that.
Well, before Family Arts Museum, I probably spent every 3 years, I would dive into a different art form, you know? So I dove into photography, belly dance, writing, and I really just felt art was this space of ultimate healing for me. I hadn't got to the point where I felt that it needed to be a part of my economy. It was literally my practice of finding new tools to address my own healing.
Right.
And so I, by chance, became this multidisciplinary artist, you know, where it was like kind of not, if I wanted to enter that realm, it wasn't a space of like, it was like, where do we put her? You know what I mean? She's like, she's a poet, she's a photographer, da 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 da. So, but, and had developed some level of mastery at each, enough to be able that I could have picked one. So I did apply for MICA. I got accepted into the photography program, the curatorial program, and waitlisted for the Mount Royal. And I decided to do curatorial because I wanted to study with George Sissel. And I also, I had bigger questions about how art enters the landscape, you know, and I just wasn't sure about that path. I felt like it was always like we had to put ourselves into something. Right. Versus having our own and creating our own. So as a part of the program, we had to make an exhibition. So you had to find a partner. And so I, you know, I was a mom in grad school, nursing, moved in with my parents' house. I had started my whole life over. Just everything was done. And it was in those moments that I realized, I was like, this thing that women do, that a lot of people have to do, but in particular, Black women have to do it at such a high level, where we have to, this beautiful balance. You're always multitasking. Right. And it's always, it would amaze me. I would be like on 2 hours of sleep and people would be like, oh, Melani, you're doing so great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this isn't art. Like,
I know. This is my life. I'm just trying to live.
You don't see the Mod and the glue and the charcoals busted all over the floor, and you don't see the remnants of like sculpture and fiberglass, and it is ugly up in here. Now I walk out the door, put a little gloss, little eyeshadow or something on it, and it's like da-da, you know, and I'm like, is anybody studying this?
You know, so I have to say, this is the thing for me. What you just said, this is the thing that scares me for Black women. And, you know, ever since Simone passed away, that has been the thing that sits heavy on my chest. How much, because we look so good doing it, no one ever thinks that, like, you keep getting congratulated for being an artist. And I'm like, but yo, I could actually use some help. Like, you don't even
need a lot of help.
You know, you don't even see, like, I got bags, I got a baby, I got all these things, and you're like, well done. I'm like, well, could you pick up a bag? And so you know, I remember when you moved to Baltimore. I remember when you were going to grad school, and as another Black woman, I was like, ooh, well, at least I love that you moved in with your parents. I thought that was brilliant because I knew that was a big move for you, and I was like, this is how you do it. Like you actively prepared yourself to have help. And I was so proud of you for that. But you're right. You put a little gloss on, a little lip tint, people just think you're out here living your life. And on the inside, you might be literally falling apart.
Honey, I was wearing some boots, some fluffy boots and leggings every day. And so, hold on 1 second there. Ashira and Ife, I'm still on mama duty.
I understand.
Baba Mike is here. He's here? Yes. Okay, get her, please. We're still on duty. We have our little teeny group that they can get together. Oh, nice. So it was definitely like, I also was like, Ife, go up and get her because I'm on live, okay? Thank you. It was also, and I also was like, this is ugly. This is not perfect. This is not, this exhibition that you all want me to create that has all these things in place and this one subject that has the perfect didactics.
No, right.
That's not what life is looking like right now. Right now, I need to be able to multitask. Right now, I am accepting that if I don't look at my life as its own art and motherhood as a studio and my home as a studio and a curated space and my family as fine art and community as the space where this art happens, I'm not going to make it, y'all. So instead of me trying to find an institution that is going to understand that, I'm going to start my own. And I was looking at the history of socially engaged art projects, and there's a long history in the laundromat. And my grandmother was a woman who cleaned houses and also was a washerwoman. She bought property, put, children through school through this work of like washing, cleaning. And it was also one of my first jobs. And I remember being in the laundromat. I think something had happened with the dryer and I needed to dry a big blanket. And I met Miss Penny, and Miss Penny was the woman who folded the clothes. And I was like, you're more of a sculptor and more of an artist. And this space is more of a studio for me right now than anything else that I'm interested in talking about. And I remember when I first did it and I set up the show at the laundromat, and I wasn't the first to do it. So it's definitely not like, it wasn't like I was honoring the tradition of doing this kind of work in laundromats from a project in like 1977. There's a laundromat project in Brooklyn. I mean, there's stories of it, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember one of the artists that I wanted, he came in with his rep, and she was like, "Oh, you meant an actual laundromat?"
You were like, "Yes."
I said, "Yes." I said, I was like, "Yes." And here we're going to I'm talking about the TVs. I said, we're going to have a movie projected on the TVs and the windows. And right here, we're going to have performance. And she's like, "It's an actual laundromat, not a gallery, a new gallery. It's an actual laundromat in a new gallery in an old laundromat."
Right.
Girl, she looked at him and was like, "I'll be in the car."
Oh.
And it was crazy. And he even told me that he only came to the show to see it fail. But when I tell you that first show that we had, he came to the show early and was like, "Yeah, I just came to see this fail. I brought my child and everything." And I was like, "This is interesting." But that first show.
I'm sorry. Sagittarius and me needs to understand. He actually said that out loud out of his mouth.
No, it was out loud outside his mouth.
Mm.
It was outside his mouth.
Okay.
And but that first show was the coldest day in February. It's February 15th, 2015. And we had about 125 people in a laundromat.
Of course.
You had to bring a bag of laundry.
I remember that flyer because I was like, "Oh my God, this is so dope." I remember the flyer.
You had to bring laundry, and if you did, and you had to bring a love letter to Baltimore because it was about ending violence in Baltimore. I never said that because I don't want to repeat the words that I don't want happen. I wanted love letters to Baltimore. Miss Penny taught people how to fold fitted sheets and and shirts. And but this was the thing that I didn't want to have to discuss with an institution. I didn't want to have to explain to you why this was art and why it was important and why we needed this kind of programming and this kind of exhibition for the healing of that community at that time period. I didn't want to explain why I wanted a therapist at the laundromat. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to explain why I wanted resource books around. So sometimes, we're always looking for someone to tell us what our healing looks like instead of creating the healing that we need. And then also creating in a way that we can share with other people and trusting it.
Right.
And sometimes when you're doing that, it's hard enough to have that conversation with yourself. Why add people who are already doubting you?
This is what it is. And what I love about it is it's very typically Melani. This is Melani all day. But it is very much like when I think about the Black women in my life, the creatives, like some of them, shout out to Miriam, Hadia, Dana, that are on now. But this is what we do. And oftentimes, because I remember when I saw it, for whatever reason, I couldn't get up to Baltimore, but I was extremely proud of you because I was like, I remember the flyer had the clothesline.
Yep. Yeah, with LOV, with T-shirts that said LOV.
I remember because I was like, first of all, this graphic is fire. But second of all, I understood exactly what you were doing. Yeah. And I felt like, I think one of the things that that hinder us is we need more of those people out here doing whatever and not worrying about whether the outside calls it art, but seeing it as art and presenting it as such. Yeah. Because there's a way that you present your work that is still the production value is still high. that works outside the system, but establishes a level of excellence based on what you think should be the way things are established. And it's the fearlessness it's the fearlessness for me. It really is.
You know, I would love to say it's fearless. It's actually, it's the fear is there. I'm riding it. I'm just riding it. I'm like, okay, fear.
You double dutch, like, let's go. Let's go.
And I'm like trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I don't have to charge it. Bye. I didn't find it. Bye. Look in that bag right there. Because so it's two things. Are you more afraid of existing any longer without it?
Right.
Because there's fear, you know what I'm saying? But
absolutely.
But at some point I was like, okay, oh my God, that first show, and shout out to Jermaine. Jermaine, he did the graphics. Jermaine Beeswax, that's his Facebook, IG page up in Baltimore. Did the graphics, we laid it out. I mean, and it was seamless, but I almost canceled that show. First of all, it was an ice storm that morning.
Right.
And I was like, how are we gonna do this? I don't have a water bottle, baby. I was like, how are we gonna do this? You know what I'm saying? Then get the stool and get it. And then people were like, I hope you're not canceling the show. I'm coming out.
Right.
So I started getting these text messages at like the night before. They were like, oh, it looks like it's snowing. You're not canceling, right? We'll be there. And I was like, well, you know what? Where two or more gather.
This is what it's going to be. Let me tell you something. It reminds me of the first time I did when Harlem came to Paris. And when I tell you the Friday, the week before, so the Allianz friend says, for those who don't know, when Harlem came to Paris was this time warp event I did where I reimagined all of us in 1920, and celebrities from the Harlem Renaissance were in Paris for a night. So worked with the Allianz Française, and it was a very big idea. It was a very big production. And even people on my team were like, I don't know if this is going to work. I was like, just ride with me, because I see it, but let's just ride with me. And like nervous, stressed out. And at the last minute, shout out to John Murph. John Murph calls me up and he says, hey, why I got to find out about this when Harlem came to Paris thing on some little dry, press release. I was like, yeah, we're doing it. Can you help? And he had, because I was really trying to make this work, I had pictures done. We had pictures done, and Holly Bass was my Josephine Baker. And she recreated that famous picture of Josephine Baker with just the curly Q and the sheet.
Yes, honey.
The week before, we had sold 2 tickets. And I was like, I'm about to lose all my money. I have, here we go. And when I tell you double dutch it, me and Fear, I can't double dutch, Melani.
Neither can I.
I can't double dutch. I don't know how to double dutch.
We do it.
And I'm jumping in the rope, and the rope is catching my leg. I remember getting down on my knees at the herb shop that I was working at. I was like, please, God, I don't want to lose. Help me. And then the Thursday before, the city paper, the Express drops the event with the picture of Holly Bass. By Friday morning,
up there like
right. By Friday morning, I get a call from the man. He was like, "Yo, your event is sold out."
Sold out, boo.
Sold out. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked only because I was like, if that's what it took, shit, I should have done this like weeks ago. But it was this amazing moment where I, that double dutch that you can't do. You're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. You just do it. And it was a powerful moment of confirmation. It was a really powerful moment of confirmation. And so I remember when I saw your clothesline project, I was like, this is brilliant. We have to be willing to establish our own spaces and not worry as much about what people are going to say, and just
Because we need it. If you need it, somebody else needs it. And don't get me wrong, I'm preaching to myself as I say this, because there's things that I have to create right now that I need. Right. So in this moment, I have a need that I have not.
Oh, I'm calling you after the show because I have something to talk to you about.
Oh, speaking of which, we gotta talk. Right. So it's like, and I listen.
Right.
And like you said, can I double dutch? I learned how to hula hoop. I literally just learned how to hula hoop.
Well, I don't have hips, so I struggle with that. But you know, I can swing it around once.
And I struggle with it. So I got hips for everybody, boo. Hips
you do. I'm so jealous.
I got them, but that hula hoop and I, we weren't working together until another woman literally taught me and spoke my body through this movement as a grown woman. And sometimes that's what spirit is. Even, and you know, and we want to separate spirit, not us, but in this world, spirit is sometimes viewed outside of your work.
Right.
Your work in the office, your work here. And sometimes you're like, well, there's no spirit in it. Well, honey, if you in it, there's spirit in it. There's no choice. So it doesn't necessarily, the what is already there because you're there.
Right.
The who is already there because you're there.
Right.
The why is already there because you're there. The how, it might come along as you get there.
Right.
But you got enough to like get it started, you know?
Right.
And so some of the times I had no idea, same thing happened. I had sent out my little dry press release because that was a part of my program, learning how to do these different things, you know what I'm saying? And so
the little dry press. He's like, this dry ass press release. I was like,
right. And God, thank you for the people that will call your stuff dry ass, okay?
Right.
Because they're the ones that are like, okay, we need to do something different. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it was that and talking to Jermaine, and I swear when I talked to Jermaine Bell, it was so quick. He got it. Working with people that you don't have to explain yourself to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I need a clothesline. I need a city line of Baltimore. I need a blue sky. And he's like, it's got to be blue. I was like, it's got to be blue, Jermaine. And so when I'm here designing this, and I was like, and I see the sheets on the clothesline, and it says LOVE, and he's knocking it out, right? And so, and it's like you when you're on that side of fear, and when you're also on the margins, you have to surround yourself with voices that are going to constantly affirm it. Be honest about it. Now they're going to be honest. They're going to be like, now that part's dry. We need to move this over here. But they're going to affirm it, you know? And you also sometimes need the doubt. Sometimes the doubt is there, you know, but it's like, you already doubting too. So, I mean, whatever. But you still get to do it.
Right. And the thing of it is, I have to say, like, Harlem in Paris taught me a lot because the biggest advocate was Sylvain Cornevaux, who was the director of programming at the time. He was like, don't let anybody destroy your vision. This is the fact. I mean, he was so amped. Like, like when he was like, we've only sold 2 tickets, but don't worry, cats, it will get better. People are last minute. And I was like, but these are white people. What is happening here? I know
what is happening.
I know us is last minute, but where are your people? I figured we'd be halfway through by now. And so it was that person who speaks life into you, you never know who that person's going to be. And I think that, you know, now that we're older and we actually have access to some resources, not as many as we like, what I love about the way that you administrate is that you, having done this kind of work DIY, now that you are affiliated with the institution, you're able to provide for the artists because you have that DIY background. You know what the needs are. Yeah. And you anticipate them. Like, I have tried to work with museums in the past. I've only successfully worked with 2, and that other one almost drove me nuts. You're working with you for the performance art piece on aesthetics was it was seamless.
It was seamless.
It was seamless.
It was so seamless. It was seamless.
You were like, oh, we already have a green room. We have snacks. There's a place for you to change. Here's your rehearsal time. What do you need? And I was like, you know what? This is, sign me up like this all the time. Last time I had to work with somebody, it was like pulling teeth.
No.
You had my money before I got there. I was like, I paid everybody that day. It was amazing.
I was like, here's the money, checks cut. Oh no, you're gonna need that in advance. Blah blah blah.
Boom, boom, boom. You know, and it's so the beauty of that experience is that when people like you enter, because I do think that there is value in these institutions.
Yeah.
The problem is there aren't the right people in these institutions. So now it's like you have the vision and be like, no, we're doing this, and this is how we're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and because they trust you and they don't argue with you, because I know we talked about this, how you were like, look, if I'm coming into your institution, this is how I roll and this is what I need.
Yeah.
You're able to create that space that you felt like you couldn't find when you were doing your thing.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to share how you set the bar, because I think it can be intimidating, as fierce as we are, when you go into these institutions, because we're still assigning a certain amount of importance and you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Confirmation to what these institutions mean on our resumes or, you know, whatever. But I remember we talking about it and I was like, well, you know, how do you go into a space like that and establish, I'm Black. I care about Black people. Like, I'm so Black. So if I'm here, you're going to see Black people. Talk through that, because I think it's a skill. You shared that when I had you come for Art on the Vine. Yeah. And we did the colloquium, and you were very adamant, like, you know, you have to own the space you're in. You cannot doubt it. And I thought it was such brilliant, like your presentation was so much fun, because you're like, this is how we're going to roll with it. But when you talk about,
I had a whole other presentation prepared too. And I
know you did.
This ain't the word.
No, this not. And I remember all the sisters with the pens, like, okay, all right, we're taking notes, because you were dropping some really clear guidelines on how to infiltrate. I shouldn't call it infiltration, how to intentionally enter these spaces and get what you need so you can help the people that, you know, are often, you know, sort of on the margins.
Well, the first thing from me, and I've seen so many people do this. When you enter a space that is predominantly not you, okay, you need to, have you talked to everyone that looks like you in that space?
Right.
If there's somebody who left that position, or you are replacing in some way, shape, or form, or fashion, and they look like you, and you haven't had a conversation with them, you about to set yourself up. That's a setup. And it may not come immediately because you new, black, and shiny, but you know, it's gonna come. The ash will come because you didn't put any oil on the skin. I mean, that's
and there's nothing more terrible than being ashy for no damn reason.
Listen, you better come in with your shea butters and your oils and immediately hydrate the skin that is yours. Immediately. You're like, oh, is that my skin?
Right.
Hi, how are you?
Right.
How's your experience? How can I help you? Is everything okay? You know what I'm saying? Put some vanilla in that shea butter and moisturize the skin that's in it already.
Right.
So for me, when I, you know, and then also be honest, like with yourself, like who really has the keys?
Right.
The people who clean the building and protect the building, honey, they got the keys.
Right.
What are you talking about? Are you really walking past these people? I'm bringing snacks. Okay.
And you can tell, because when I came to visit and we talked about everything, it was very clear that you had engaged with all that staff that, like, when you first walk in. I was like, I'm here to see Melani Douglas. Oh, Miss Melani, no problem. Let me I mean, like, okay.
Yo, they my folks. Listen, I'm telling you right now, these are my people.
Right.
If you're in the front, because most of us are in the front.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But not always at the table.
Right.
So you're at the front and you're representing me. How do I get to the table and not represent you?
Right.
That's ashy.
That is ashy.
It's so ashy.
It's so dry.
It's
so
a little parched. It's a little parched.
It's like we dehydrated. You need some coconut
Your
water.
skin is itching.
Like it's
your
not
hair
cute.
flaky.
It's not cute. It's not cute.
It's not cute. And so I think sometimes I've seen people into these spaces wanting to be accepted. You got the job.
Right.
I mean, you don't think they need you? And I'm going to tell you, whatever they paying you, they make 5 times as much from you being there. I promise you that. I promise you that. That I can guarantee.
Right.
So it's like, so you're in this space talking about it feels so lonely, but you don't know the security staff. I'm never lonely.
Right.
Not in that museum. I'm
right.
not. I will go down to that front desk. I will go into the gallery. They will tell me about the art. We talk about life. And so to me, you start there. When I found out there was someone who had been there, I started making connections with her. I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we eventually will have a conversation. It probably took us like 2 years before we actually had a conversation. But I was like, sis, I'm in here and I see your name on some of this paperwork. I don't know the whole story, but I want you to know.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's one. But the thing I do want to back up is in the hiring process. You know what I mean? Like I had to be very honest, and even my mentor George Sissel, when he had this conversation, and I told him it's okay to say this. It's like if you're not interested in changing, or if you're interested in staying status quo, you probably don't want to hire me.
Right.
You might not want me there. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be. There are going to be some challenges,
right?
But and then so I think that's a huge part of it. So that's one. 2, wherever you have power to bring other people to the table immediately. Give me a reason. What? Oh, we got a show called what's this about? Oh, okay, it's Black Abstract. Where Hadia at? Her jewelry look black and abstract.
Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in.
Bring it in. Just like, I'm like, look, because I don't want to. Why would you want to be there by yourself?
Exactly. And I think the way that you're framing it is exactly the way that it needs to be framed. That it's really about creating your own. It's like your village has to come with you.
Yes.
Because then people will. I'm telling you. That was the best museum. Like after a couple of things that have happened, I was like, I'm not messing with museums because they don't get me and I'm not interested in trying to squeeze myself into their nonsense. But that was like the best experience I've ever had working with the museum. Because I didn't get caught up in like all the stuff that usually happens behind the scenes. You were like, here's your money. What time do I need to be here?
Right.
What are we doing? Boom.
And also inside of that, and this is another thing. Oh, I was clear in that moment that I worked for you. Like, let's be clear about that. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I was like, oh, you were like, so do you think? I was like, Kat, you was going to tell, I'm cutting this check for you to tell me what to do. How about that?
So then I was like, oh my God.
I'm like, you going to tell me what to do. And I'm going to tell my amazing team what you said. And then I'll see you there. Because I'm not, is it, you wanted to say what? Okay, that works. Cause
I mean, it's a powerful thing to be seen as an artist, because I don't often identify with the word because of the way the word has been constructed in my head. So even when you reached out to me, I was like, I can do this. Absolutely, I can do this. And being given this space to create without having to worry about the promotion and the marketing and the resources. Like that was a serious gift. That was one of the most exciting moments of my creative space, because oftentimes I'm producing it, I'm creating it, I'm overseeing the art direction, I'm doing all these things. I got to come in and just create. And it was the ladies had such a good time.
Oh my God. And I was like, oh, by the way, I'm going to be in there. I'm going to be one of the ladies.
I was like, of course you are. Well, you better be out here. It was dope because it gave us, it was like, for me, it was just a fun time with the girls. And there was no pressure because I knew you were like, whatever you do is fine. So there was no feeling like, do I have to run anything by anybody? It just felt, it was just so seamless.
Yeah.
And that's what I wish for all artists, to have an advocate on the inside to say, this is like, there was no drama.
There was
And
no drama.
So it's, you know, when we talk about people being like, you know, this whole thing of, oh, you need to be independent, you need to be an entrepreneur, you need to be outside the system. Sometimes you want somebody inside the system because the resources are there.
Yeah.
You know, being able to create, and that's the only thing you have to focus on, is a gift. It really is.
And so, and that's another thing that I would want to suggest to us, that, you know, our artists, and you know how I use the term artist, because I'm like, listen, if you're making your life like enhancing and bringing beauty into your space, at some level inside of that range of what an artist is, you're on it, right? Okay, so let's not have a doubt about that. Now, but not enough of us are going into these spaces and just spend 2 to 3 years redefining how the work is done. Because here's the thing. One, you need to see behind the scenes. You need to demystify what you think this is. We have a lot of mystery around what we think, how things get into museums, why they get into museums, who the board is, who the this is. Some of the mystery is real. And then some of it is just, it's all kind of like too much talking to yourself without being there, right? And so get in there. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you do it for 2 to 3 years, it will never be done the same. They can't go back to doing it how it was before. So whether you're an artist or not, if you leave that situation, the world is more ready for you as an artist. Because you've created space for this to exist, and not going from a place of like, I'm just trying to keep this job. I'm just trying to listen. You know what I'm saying? If you're doing that, you already lost it.
That's true.
You already lost it, and you're gonna find yourself out by yourself in ashy. And here's the thing. If you do, you're always, these jobs are it's so interesting. And I think I said this in the Black Girl Basel. You, at every given moment, you have to be willing to lose this job. Right. You can't be afraid. Because there is an element that feels conditional in a lot of these spaces. You know, and you can't always worry about why the condition is there. Do you check a box, blah, blah, blah. Do your job, you know, do the best you can and bring the healing that you need to it. But because that risk is there, whether you could be the most boot shining, teeth cleaning person on there, and you will still find yourself out in the street. Not even out, you find yourself outside. Like that outside that's closed right now, they'll put you out there. So you have to be like, at least let me build community. Let me get what I need in this space. If I'm bringing a healing for myself, because we know that when environments are set up to be healing for Black women, a lot of people benefit from it. There's a lot of change. And then also, if you do lose your job, listen, you have a network of people that you are already in it with. You're never lost. You don't lose. So those are some of the things that I would say. Definitely don't be afraid to negotiate your pay and renegotiate it. So when you find out that they're making 5 times as much, well, you need to have some more conversations. Have your data. You know what I'm saying? Get between them sheets, them Excel sheets, honey. I put on my Ozzy Brothers between the sheets, and I'll be reading my Excels, honey. Girl, I'll be in there with them, looking at all my data.
Looking at these salary comparisons, like, wait a minute now.
Wait a minute. What I'm saying?
Because the other piece of that is that no matter what they're paying you, the very fact of you as a Black woman being in the space already raises the value of them. Yeah. And that's what we don't realize. They're never going to be able to pay you your worth, because the bottom line is the minute an institution hires a Black woman, a Black person as whatever, their stock value goes up because they're seen as progressive or whatever. And there's a tax that should go along with that. You should be charging them for that.
Yeah, you should definitely make some negotiations about it. And I think Elise, she just said something about how making it that familial, like working as a family, like, listen, you need it. You need it. Like it all has to be there. And it really, it gives you a reason to call somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy that I just have a reason to call you. Listen, I got
I
this
like
project.
when you call. I'd be like, what we doing? Where we going?
You know when I come, I'd be like, Cat.
Like, what you need? Let's go.
And it's the same exact way when you call me, I'll be like, we about to get in some good trouble.
Yeah.
Like, I see your number. I'm like, let's do it.
This is what, it's, and I think that's the part that I think is really important, because I do think that when I think about my life and I think about the Black women in my life and how far reaching the Black women are, like, it's a pretty amazing global network of Black women that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to do this. And I'm pretty sure somebody will be like, well, I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Yes. So I do think cultivating those spaces and cultivating those spaces genuinely. Melani has sat on my porch and had tea. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really about having genuine relationships, not these sort of surface things where you see each other and it's like, what can I get from you? It can't be transactional. I think the things that work best, I love getting calls from Melani, because Melani's always be like, hey, got an opportunity. Do whatever you want. Here's the thing. All right, let's go. It feels good. But I don't think that comes over time. That comes with sharing space and engaging. And, when, there was a time where Melani wasn't, at the museum, you know what I'm saying? So you can't just call people when they're doing good.
Yeah.
You do have to cultivate that relationship. There has to be reciprocity. Otherwise, why the hell are we here?
Why are we here? And then also the other thing is that please know that how do I say? Ooh. We have an interesting way of keeping a how does one make them pay?
Yeah, this is a good question. How does one make them pay us like they pay their family?
Oh, that's a real good question. So this is where you need your spreadsheets and your data. Mm-hmm. And this is where you need to be willing to leave. And you need to be willing to have these conversations. And I say that to myself.
No, but that willing to leave, that's important, because the fear of not having the fear of not having enough sometimes will drive you not to question or ask. And the reality is that everybody should embrace their inner white girl and be like, look, this is what I need to do. This is what has to happen. And those spreadsheets, and there are a bunch of sites dedicated to salary comparisons. Mm-hmm. I learned
and then you can also just pull their form of 1099s.
Look at that.
And you can also see who was getting paid. On a 1099, you have to list who got paid over $100,000 every year. So you get to see those things. So
wait, I didn't know you could do that. Explain, counselor.
Yeah, you can go, I think GuideStar, you can pull people's, so when you, it's probably like 2 years back, where you can pull a nonprofit's 1099. And on that 1099, they have to list anyone they pay over $100,000 and what they pay them.
Wow.
Now, here's the other thing. Here's how some people get around it, though. People will have contractors or consultants that won't be listed on that 1099 because they're not a salaried employee.
Right.
So you then learn about, okay, well, how does this work? But definitely. So if it's 2021, you could probably pull a 2018 1099, maybe 2019.
Right.
And look up their tax records. It's a nonprofit. Their tax records are public.
Boom.
So that's one of the ways you begin to negotiate it. Another way you begin to negotiate it is associate and understand your value. If you're doing a program and they putting it in a grant, they put it into this, they put in a proposal, and that grant, they win that, and they're part of, or they're using your numbers, that's a part of your value. Mm-hmm. And also, and this is new for me that I'm learning, is that have contacts in other places that you're making aware of your work. Mm-hmm. So that there's other doors and other opportunities that open.
Right.
Find if it's, someone that you use your network. Make sure your network knows. I need to get better at this because there's certain things like I just have to. We all have to get better at it. But make sure your network knows, hey, this is the kind of work that you do, you know, because somebody's always looking for somebody.
That's
even
true.
In the middle of a pandemic, even in the middle of, you know, so that's one way. Also find other ways that you're also can get paid. Is it for education? Do they have some other reimbursements? Max out your, you know, your retirement, those kind of things. See what are the other ways, like other ways that you could benefit from the situation, you know, and call them out and be like, so what exactly is this person bringing? Oh, here's my term. Okay, so if I'm always like, well, you're asking me to do this. This is beyond my scope. But you've invested this much more money in that person. You should ask them and get a return on your investment, because I've returned my investment.
Yep. And the church gets quiet. Because like, oh, Bob?
Are you busy, Bob?
Bob, are you busy?
I mean, and you got to be clear, like, hey, I get paid this much. These are the ways that I've definitely given your investment back. Right. You've got it. Are you getting your investment back from this? Because they get paid twice as much as I do. Right. You might want to ask them. I don't know. But at this time, at this pay, I'm not able to help you on this subject.
I love it. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for asking, though. I appreciate that you thought I'd be excited about that. Yeah.
I am so here for it. Oh, that tickles me in ways that you don't understand. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Don't be excited, didn't you?
Yeah, because I think part of it, a lot of what this is, it's really claiming our greatness. It's about understanding our value first and foremost. And our value is not, I just don't feel like our value as Black women is easily tangible. I think people really don't understand, like, the sheer fact that I'm in the building makes your space better, because your staff that you don't even talk to, they're just excited to see me. I'm telling you, when I walked into that building, I was like, I'm coming to see you. Your girl lit up, like, hold on. And came back and checked on me like, she'll be right down. I was like, it was just 2 minutes. She's like, she's coming. I was like, created a space, man. Folks are like excited to serve. It was fantastic. But
because I served them.
You know, so you can see it.
And I'm gonna tell you something, and that's another thing. I don't care what my position says. I work for those people at the front desk. Right. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I get it. Melani Douglas, Director of Public Programs, whatever. Melani Douglas, the person who brings some cake to security. Y'all good? Because
I had some extra from thank you, Miss. I mean, she was happy. What? She was so excited. I was like, this is the kind of energy we all need to have. I mean, it was beautiful to see.
I walk in there and I let them know. There's certain days I walk in there and I literally walk in and I see their faces and I'm like y'all know it's gonna be a good day.
Right.
I needed to see your face first. Cause keeping it real, like, I do. I do. I need to see them. I need to make sure they're okay, you know? And so, and also that was me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm cleaning houses with my, grandmother. My grandmother had all the keys. I saw people ignore my grandmother, but guess who my grandmother could call? Right. You think we had lawyers and all the things that we had, or a doctor and this, that, and the other, because she had the money? No. Right. She had the keys to their whole life. Right. She knew all the things. She knew where all the bodies were buried. All the things. All the things.
So this conversation went completely in a different, beautiful direction. I'm so excited. There are tulips and roses everywhere. But we're coming to a close, and I have to ask you. We saw, recent, behaviors of certain folks who, I'm gonna try to behave myself today. I'm not gonna call them what I usually call them, but these proud nuggets were out here carrying on, and so on January 6th, we watched a bunch of crazy white people do what, as Black people, we've always known they were going to do. And your institution is in right dab in the smack of the middle of everything. And I wanted to know, because I have the luxury of not necessarily having to engage right now because I'm teaching remotely. But because of the work that you do, with all of this civil unrest and all of this instability, all the things that have been happening with the police and Black Lives Matter, you are kind of in a situation, I think, where you're having to interact with people all the time in your workplace this is your backdrop. And I wondered for you how your presence has prepared your folks for how this stuff is panning out. Like, are there conversations? Do you feel like you need to, are you feeling like, oh, okay, you people are going to come and ask me all these questions that I don't want to answer? Is there open conversation about what's going on? Can you call in Black?
Well, man, how do we even end on this? Because it's layered.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with just one of the layers. If the conversation is not happening,
right,
I will definitely bring the conversation to happen and also make it very clear that I'm not going to be leading the conversation.
Well done.
Where it's like, by the way, we need to have high consideration for the fact that most of our front staff are Black. Mm-hmm. And the people that only have to be there, this is a tense moment for them.
Right.
How are you making sure that they're safe? I'm like, that ain't my job, but
right.
I see we're not talking about it.
Right.
So let me, and it's like, because we have to, and use the times. It's like, because we have to acknowledge that if bias happened on Capitol Hill, that prevented them from seeing, and let's be clear, it was anti-Black and racist.
Yes.
You have to say that.
Right.
And then it's like, well, it may be like, well, we're, if we're working on anti-racist work, and I said, or we're working on allyship, sometimes you have to be willing to say, listen, if you're not willing to abolish racism, you're a racist. It's not allyship, it's abolitionist work.
Right.
So sometimes it's like finding that balance between like, this is important, it has to be spoken about. Let's bring it into the conversation and then really remind people about what their jobs are to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a wild time because I still live like 15 minutes. So, I'm like very close even where I live. So I'm hearing the planes go and saying, I'm like, how in the world are our security? Where is everybody?
Right.
But I think that, it's a beautiful time because it's at everyone's front door.
Right. So you can't deny it now. There's no getting around it. This is what it is.
No, there's no getting around it. And I don't care how great your museum, you have these head of security plans or this, that, and the other. They got into the Capitol.
Right.
And they got into it because people who had those plans didn't see that their work was a threat. And we need to check. So if it's not being checked over at the Capitol, is it being checked here?
Well, I mean, the other piece that no one's really talking about is they got into the Capitol because some of the people that were designed to defend the Capitol were on the side of the people that were trying to raid the Capitol.
Well, then there's that.
Which means
that's happening at that level.
Right.
You might want to check what's happening at your nonprofit level.
Right.
I have a hard time believing that at that level, that their diversity and inclusion don't top yours. I don't know. You need more people.
Right.
I'm not convinced. Now, I'm not one of those people, though, because I'm not going to have this conversation with you. You might not want to call me about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You might want to organize yourselves, but it is that balance. And it's also like, what part of this do I care about?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? How, even inside of this moment, what are the things that I can still do to create community and care for community and put those voices in the conversation and at the table? Right. So don't stop that work either. Right. So we have most of our stuff online. We didn't get to talk about reclamation.
We're going to just go over because we got to talk about reclamation because I was like, dang it, I should have known. Should have been like special extended version. So we're going to close out with this very important exhibition. Did you curate it? Because I've been calling you the curator. Is that okay? You're the curator of this, and it's so classic Melani, to be honest with you. When you told me about it, I was like, this is so Melani. Can you talk about the Reclamation Project? Because I think it's something that folks would really appreciate, and let us know how we can support.
Reclamation is a multimedia exhibition that's looking at food and family and community as the center for art and social change. So
Uh-oh.
sorry about that. I had
a phone call.
Can you see me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, and what we did is that we have 9 artists, and I included myself in this one because I wanted to push what I was asking people to do. You know, I was asking people to step way outside of their comfort zone. And I think sometimes as a curator, we're like, you as the artist, step out there and I'll write the didactics. And so, so I was like, okay, how can I challenge myself to do this? I had them do 25 prompts about how to give for photographs and videos about the art that nurtures them, the kitchen, the food, showing themselves at home at the kitchen table for different uses. And then we put it together. I interviewed them about the ritual of care. And then we also had, Curative Collective. So Black Magic Sisters, Strobe, DC Mutual Aid Apothecary. And then we also have a series called The Tea. So it's like these multifaceted elements that bring together for this exhibition to talk about how food connects us. And then also how food history tells another story about women's power. And so we also had, people could be in the exhibition if you submitted a recipe. So, I'm hoping if people want it, I'll open it up again, but it's a searchable database of the pantry where you can look up an ingredient, it'll pull all these recipes for it. You can do your food memories. So it's this really like, art exhibition / cookbook / sit home and listen to some jazz. It's a lot that's happening there. And it started as a project with the Family Arts Museum. I started working on it literally like about 5 years ago. It was built out of the civil unrest that was happening in Baltimore. And I made a post that talked about what's your family's recipe when you're sick? What do you cook when you're sick? And everybody talked about a bone broth or a hot toddy. And it was during the time of like complete political unrest, but people were coming together and sharing these recipes. So that's what the project is. How can you help? Right now I'm going to be very, very transparent in this moment. I really have to figure out a way to take the Family Arts Museum to the next level so that I can focus my time and energy on projects that are like this, because this is the work that I came to do. So when it comes to the structuring it, building the website, figuring out how to market it, how to also create things that are able to cultivate other curators, all other people of color in entering this field, training them on that. So having that all be a part of the Family Arts Museum is really where I'm looking at those next steps.
Okay. So you need people to help you. We need to fundraise. I need to fundraise. Definitely. We definitely need help with fundraising. We definitely need help with infrastructure, creating the infrastructure to, and, maybe curriculum building and a couple other things. Okay. Then
one last thing, the Family Arts Museum, I've done 3 years of a residency. So I literally have had artists live with me for free for 6 months to a year. They have to just work on a project. And, my basement's pretty set out for them to be able to live, and so I've done even residencies on my own, a lot of it, all kind of things that I've just done on my own. So it's time to say, how do you get this? How do you move it to the next level?
Okay. And I think that there is a way for us to do that.
I believe.
I knew this was going to be amazing. Oh, wait, where do people go for the Reclamation Project? What's the easiest thing?
Yes. Reclamation.nemwa.org.
Okay, so www.reclamation.nemwa.org.
And I have an amazing team. We're small. It's really Amanda and I. Like, you work with Amanda and Grace.
Yeah, she's a sweetie.
Oh my God, they are amazing, and we're really putting it together. And Amanda has been instrumental in helping to make this happen. So reclamation.nimwa.org.
Okay. I put it in the comments, so it's there for you all to pick up on.
Yeah, and then we are going to the exhibitions all year, and we're going to do a reboot of it in the fall, so be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
And then if you hit me up on IG, I'm pretty easy to find. You can just IG or Facebook. I check Twitter once every 2 weeks.
So this is Melani's information is here, and the Family Arts Museum, both on IG. Follow them. Let's get this up and running for her. Let's get her what she needs, because that's what you've done so much for the community. At the very least, we can make sure that you're good. So I'm excited, and I'll be calling you because I may have something for you.
Let's do it, darling.
Okay, I needed the cackle. I think that's how we greet each other from now on.
Right. Be like, hey, boo.
And I do think we should learn how to double Dutch.
This is a goal.
Because
seriously.
Yeah. I'm scared of the two ropes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I don't know which leg to use. It's way too confusing. But I think we should make this one of our things to do
this year.
Yeah. We should
I'm so down. And between us, it's probably gonna be an event. So y'all be on the lookout for.
Well, I'm not jumping over your shoulders, but I will learn the double Dutch. That, you know what? That could be a really, that's a cool thing.
We're doing it. We're already doing it right now.
Yep. We should totally do it. So everyone wants to teach us how to double Dutch. Well, actually record it and everything. Ooh, child.
Yeah. Oh, I'm down. Because I got recordings of me learning the hula hoop, honey. It's funny.
Listen. I always assumed it was because I didn't have hips. So I was like, I'm okay with that because, I wasn't built for hula hoops. But apparently there's an art to it.
Yeah, it's an art. It's an art. Well, I'm so glad we could do this. I love you, Kat. You are amazing. And when I think about the people that I can happily call that are a part of my circle, it is an honor and pleasure to be on this round with you, girl.
I feel the same way.
Listen, I would not want to do this without being able to call folks like you.
Listen, I'm always going to answer your call. Listen. Hey, you have spoiled me now. You have spoiled me.
I've spoiled you, darling.
These people, you need to go ahead and talk to Melani and see how you're supposed to do things.
Have you talked to her?
Because if you don't do it like, I'm not doing it. No. So, yeah. The bar is high, and I appreciate you. I love you. I think what you do is incredibly important. And it is an honor to call you a member of my village because, there's a lot of ways that you've shown up for me that, I really appreciate. And so, yeah, this love fest is real.
It's real, y'all.
It's so real. Thank you to everyone that's listening and posting. Let me tell you something. Okay, so apparently there's a whole crew of Black women who want to learn how to double Dutch.
See, we're not the only ones, Kat. I feel redeemed.
So let me find out the aunties are going to come together. It's going to be aunties only. Like if your ass ain't over 40, you can't be part of this crew.
No, you got to be over 40.
Yes.
You got to be over 40.
40 plus girl gang learning how to double Dutch. This is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing.
We're getting jackets. We're getting jackets.
Can we have just a little bit of sequence on it? Just a little.
I'm Nigerian. There'll be a smidge. We have to do something now.
Smidge it.
Oh, damn, Jovette. No, we're going to get you right. We're going to get you. Okay, see.
So that we got you.
Jovette, we got you. Hadia.
In sequence.
Tiffany. All right. Okay. Amira said the DC retro stepper. Okay. We are going to figure out a way to socially distance and hold some double Dutch.
The ropes are 6 feet apart. I swear to God, they are. They more
than 6 feet. We're going to I will talk to the people. I will find a space for us. Shout out to the Kennedy Center and the Reach. I'm about to call you. And we are going to hold a clinic for the
Arts Museum, little so-so production remix about to happen. We about to do this.
I've always wanted to be that double Dutch Black girl. I am about to get something off my bucket list. I'm so excited.
We going into the next decade, double Dutch and boo.
That's what we're doing. And I'm about to do my hair with little bubbles and everything. Thank you, Elise. We're about to act a fool.
A whole fool.
Y'all should never. Come spring.
Elise is like, look, I know. Let me tell you, this will be going.
Come spring.
This is why we love our community.
Get ready. We are going to have a lot of fun. The anti-double Dutch gang is about to happen. And it's for the 40s and overs. So if you have to be that old to ride this ride, this is how we're doing it. And we're getting jackets.
Yes. I see it.
And it might be a little cute little hat to go with. Little just
as long as it's satin, that's all I really care about. I'm not gonna lie.
There you go. There you go. Because that's what I saw.
Okay, we got to get out of here because we'll keep this going. You know how Black folks are like, listen, I'm about to leave, and 40 minutes later, my foot is on the car door, and I'm hanging out like, all right, so you know, this is us. So we're gonna leave now. Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank y'all.
This is a great way to come back. Love you all so incredibly much. The aunties and the Double Dutch gang is really about to happen. Just get ready. Y'all think I'm playing? I'm dead serious. We're gonna learn how to double Dutch. We'll be back next week. Our guest will be Jasmine Smith. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much, Melani. This was so fantastic.
Thank you.
Just so fantastic. And so we're out because this culture ain't gonna make itself. We'll see you next week, Sunday at 10 a.m. Take care. Bye.